Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Fredericksburg Standard Radio Post News Broadcast. I'm Sam Sutton, joined by Brent Burgess, Reed Graff, and Lauren Guzzi. First, we'll start off. Peach JAMboree is this weekend, and it will be my first time covering it, and Brent's first time covering it. So that'll be a lot of fun. I asked our former managing editor, Joe, how to cover it, and he said, get to the places early, wear lots of sunscreen, and drink lots of water. So, but yeah, we've got a full line of stuff on the front page about it, and this story continues on 3, but there's a lot more content about the Jamboree in the D section on pages 8 through 10, and it's just got everything about frequently asked questions, baking rules and regulations, the contestants that are running for the Queen in court, and the music lineup. So if you want everything that there is to know about the Jamboree, it's all in here. The next thing that we're going to talk about is the possibility of a wind farm or lack thereof. Brent was able to speak to the company and to the county commissioner and to I guess you can say an organization that's, yes. If you want to talk a little bit about it.
Absolutely. So there was, I guess there'd been several members of the community living up, especially around the Enchanted Rock area, that had been receiving letters from a company called Turna Energy that was feeling out the possibilities of creating land lease agreements for wind farm development. Pitching the benefits of it to landowners and such, and that's the letter that came to our attention through an organization called the SOSHCE. Honestly, I don't remember what the letters stand for. It's a very long name. Scenic, something about
Save Our Scenic Hill Country.
Yes, that's it. Very good.
Yeah.
Save Our Scenic Hill Country, and there's several. Really respectable members of the community who are in that. It's a nonprofit organization that exists to just help educate the area on what is sensible development, what's nonsensical development, especially when it comes to utilities. So they've kind of monitored power lines, but especially these wind farms, which tried to move into the region back in 2007, which is when they organized. So this is the first time they've had an ambition like this in a while. Now, it looks like at this point, Turna Energy has abandoned the plan because of what their representative cited as a massive resistance. Oh, okay. And so there was a lot of pushback right off the bat. He did tell me that he'd had some interested landowners, but I think overall the county, and when I spoke with Commissioner Olfers, I know that he pushed against it and mentioned to their representative that a lot of his constituents were completely opposed to it. And so they abandoned the plan, saying it was too much of an uphill battle for them at this point. Gotcha. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting to hear about just the possibility of possible wind farms here in Gillespie County, and kind of to hear so much pushback about it. But, it's interesting because, like you said, they've been mentioning a lot of, hoops to jump through for something like this.
Right.
And so,
although I anticipate that it's not it's not going to vanish as a possibility, because what I learned through covering the story is these energy companies get major tax breaks through these developments. So they will look for lands where they can develop. It's beneficial to their companies. So just don't be surprised if we see more of these letters showing up in the county.
Interesting. Next, we are going to talk about school board. Lauren, that was another first for you for a meeting. They talked about teacher raises, and they actually approved some teacher raises. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So for the teacher raises, classroom teachers will be getting a 7.7% raise, and then across the board, there's going to be a 4% raise for FISD staff. So, and then also including that, there's going to be, I think it's a $50 raise on health insurance.
Okay.
And then they also talked about bonds during the meeting. So the bond that was approved by voters on the May 7th vote, that there was an update. So they're trying to figure out how to sell the bond, whether they want to do it in one installment or in 2. And the person talking about the bonds mentioned that selling in 2 bonds might bring in more revenue, but the board was kind of the board didn't want to do anything necessarily about it quite yet, because they're working in a market that they haven't worked for in the past. But they do know that they want to sell sometime in the near future because of how low interest rates are right now.
Yeah. Well, good job on covering that. I know that was a lot to learn and to take in. I myself, when you were telling me about it, I was like, ooh, that's all foreign to me. But good job, kind of talking to some people and learning a little bit about it.
Yes. I learned a lot about bonds.
Yeah.
So.
And that'll help you in some point in the future. The next thing, you wrote a pretty cool story about an artist, Dane Ellsworth. And kind of a cool cover front for our scene section about a picture of the Nimitz Museum or hotel that he had painted kind of in a unique way. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I got to sit down with Dane. Dane Ellsworth is his name, and meet him. And one of the things I've been really passionate about since living in Fredericksburg myself is that there's a lot of very talented, creative people in this town, and sometimes they're very under the radar. And I would say Dane's kind of one of those type of people. He's not been an overly self-marketing kind of artist, but he's extremely talented. So at the Artisans Gallery here in town on Main Street, which represents mostly local artists, if not all local artists, they have several of his paintings there. And what they brought to our attention was this beautiful painting of the Nimitz Hotel as it existed in early Fredericksburg, when there were still folks in horse-drawn carriages and stuff, and that it was kind of this hopping place. And it's not a realistic painting. It's got a lot of interpretation in it, so it's a lot of really bright colors and strange shapes and stuff like that. But for folks who like something that's more of an interpretive look in the art world, it's a really neat piece to go check out and see.
Awesome. Yeah, I enjoyed reading that and seeing the art and hearing him kind of talk about his, what's coming up next for him, and some other not murals, but historic areas that he's hoping to paint around here.
He's really wanting to grab not only architectural structures, but things that kind of define the culture of Fredericksburg and capture those in some kind of artistic way. Yeah,
that's fun. Also, if just a kind of a brief teaser for Brent, he is a musician here in town, and he's also thinking about doing kind of a music podcast, and that's in the very early talks and stages, but you can probably expect that to start happening soon. We just kind of had a talk about it over in the back shop while working today. And
yeah, I think it would be neat. There's because we're talking about that local talent, there's so many talented musicians in the area, and we'd like to connect with you. So I'd say reach out to us if you're a musician and would be interested in that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. And then we also got to do a first installment of a Q&A in almost the. We're gonna get to sports. We saved sports for last because there's a lot of sports.
I've just been trading mics, getting ready.
But we got to do a Q&A for the first time, and I think it was 8 months. And Lauren did a great job with Mike Pennick, one of the founding members of the Historic Review Board. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I talked to Mike Pennick, and he was one of the first founding members of the Historical Review Board here in Fredericksburg. And he was there for 37 years. They started in 1989 or 1985. And so I just got to sit down and talk with him, and he told us about what he did on the committee and how his interest in architecture, because he got his architecture degree from UT, and how he moved here when he was a kid and started becoming interested in historical preservation after college. Talked about the history of Fredericksburg and how, because of the board, we have the historical nature and landmarks here in the downtown area. So the board is pretty much the reason Fredericksburg has its charm still today.
Yeah.
So it was good to talk with him and somebody who's kind of seen Fredericksburg evolve over many years.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of cool to hear. I was listening, in my office, kind of back about what he was saying, and it was cool just hearing of the passion, such passion for historic preservation, and I know that's really important here in town, and you can see it in a lot of the buildings, a lot of the homes. So I thought that was cool that you got to talk to him. Sports.
Now I can talk.
Yeah.
I was joking. It's like I'm getting ready. I got to grab the mic, and then it went back to Brent. I was like, I'll take her mic. And went back to Lauren. No, it's been a little while since I talked to y'all. I guess last time I talked to y'all on a news broadcast might have been basketball or softball playoffs. So things will slow down a lot. Not a lot going on, but we do have a couple things firing up this week. Today, actually pretty quick after this interview, after this video, I'm going to head up to Llano for 7-on-7 for Fredericksburg football. So football season is slowly starting to fire up, and putting oil in all the machines and everything. We got that going on. I'll go to Harper next week. They play on Tuesdays in Ingram. So keep an eye out for those photos and some quotes on that and how that's going. My big story I've been trying to, with how little there is going on right now, sports-wise, I've been trying to keep feature stories coming at y'all every single week, and we've had some good ones so far. But this past week, I talked with a couple, with the help of Lauren. I got a hold of some former football players. Jack Gallagher, who is a junior academically, but he's a third-year freshman somehow with the COVID and redshirt, and at Tarleton State, and then they're getting ready to try and go D1, so he's there in a crucial time. And then I caught up with Landon West, who graduated with Jack. They both graduated in 2020. They're both a member of that 6-5 team in 2019, and they both played on the offensive and defensive line. Well, Landon is a offensive lineman at Texas Lutheran in Seguin, and so we caught up with both those guys, and he's a junior. He's in his junior year, and talked about how their careers are going and what they're hoping to do. And again, thank you to Lauren for helping me get a hold of both of those guys. I didn't cover either of them in high school, and when I obviously have only been here this past year. So, but I thought it'd be cool to talk to some current football players, and I'm hoping to do a couple more series, a couple more stories, kind of like that. I've got a whole list of current college athletes, and it's something that I've done in the past. We've talked to Hannah Bubel and Hunter Metzger and some other current college athletes, and I think it's just a fun way to keep the community up to date on what they're doing. We also had some T-ball photos and all kinds of camps going on. We have Harper Ladyhorn softball camp going on, Lone Star Hoops camps going on all week. We have some photos from that this week. Staying busy. And then, of course, the Fredericksburg Standard Sports Talk podcast. I know that we had a series going on in the state of Gillespie County. It's not done yet. I've still got one more. It was supposed to be a 3-part series. I talked to Wendy Dietrich at Fredericksburg. I talked to Chad Zinner at Harper, and I am going to talk to everyone's favorite Tim Shipman. He's on vacation. He texted me. He is refilling his cup, as he likes to say. As he likes to say, you have to pour your cup and everybody else's, and he said he's out refilling his. So as soon as he gets back, I'll have an interview with Tim Shipman for y'all. I know I love Tim, and I'm sure the community does too. So we'll have that here pretty quick.
Awesome. We'll keep a lookout for that podcast. We're kind of getting more into a rhythm of our digital projects, and so I'm kind of loving that. Keep a lookout for both of the podcasts that we're doing, and some more cool features that Reed's working on this summer. The last thing I actually do want to talk about is Build and Bloom. Our spring pretty much magazine came out a little late because of some press issue, printing issues, and some other issues. So. But we do have it this week. It's got some really interesting articles and an interesting story on a local building company. So take a look at for that. It's inside each newspaper. So if you get your home delivery, it'll be in the paper as well. I think that's all that we got for you this week. Keep a lookout for next week's issues and more exciting things going on. We had a pretty packed issue this week, and I expect more of the same. Thank you so much for always reading and watching. My name is Sam Sutton. I was joined by Brent Burgess, Reed Graff, and Lauren Guzzi. Thank you.
Peace.